Begin.
Every time I appoint someone to a vacant position, I make 100 unhappy and 1 ungrateful. Louis XIV of France, also known as the Sun King and builder of Versailles. I want to educate you more about the War of Spanish Succession, also known as Queen Anne's War in American history. One of my passions in life is history, more specifically, European history and the effect it has on American history and America as a whole. This passion has led to the pursuit of many self-study research projects, to developing more in-depth analysis and theses about said topics. I want to tell you what caused the War of Spanish Succession, some key events, players, and countries within the war, and how the war was ended and the effects the war had. So to begin, Charles II of Spain, king of the Habsburg dynasty in Spain, a continuation of the Habsburg dynasty in Austria. He's dying. He's the last of his line. And why is he the last of his line? Because of the troubles of inbreeding. Royalty, and specifically the monarchy, in each and every country in Europe was known for marrying into each other to keep the bloodline pure. This much marrying in led to what we know as inbreeding and problems thereof, including, in the case of Charles II, sterility. So, Louis XIV of France wanted to place his grandson, Philippe, Duc d'Anjou, in the Spanish throne after Charles died with no heir, starting the Bourbon dynasty in Spain, according to Britannica.com. Now, the Austrian Emperor Leopold I wanted to place one of his own sons on the throne and keep the Habsburg dynasty in Spain continuing, and therefore uniting his family, making their empires each stronger. Now, the other major European powers didn't really like this, so they set up a council to pick out a new heir that wouldn't put the majority of power in Europe in the hands of either the Bourbons or the Habsburgs. The heir chosen by the council actually died before Charles II died, according to Encyclopedia.com, their article on the War of Spanish Succession. So Charles died without naming an heir. So some of the key events and people of the war. Some of the key people would be King Louis XIV of France, Charles II of Spain, Emperor Leopold I of the Austrian Empire, Philippe V of Spain, also known as Philippe, Duc d'Anjou, William III of Britain, and his wife, Queen Anne. So some of the key countries involved. Well, you're going to have two groups on this war. You're going to have the Alliance and the French Alliance. Now, in the Alliance, you're going to have England, the Austrian Empire, the individual German states, the Dutch, and Portugal. And then in the French Alliance, you're going to have France, Spain, and Bavaria. So what are some of the key events of this war? Well, obviously there's going to be a lot of battling. As we can see, each of these individual things are battles. But we also have the key events, not just the battles. So in 1700, Charles II dies without naming an heir. Louis XIV declares his grandson, Philippe, Duc d'Anjou, to be Philippe V of Spain. In 1702, William III of England dies, leaving his wife, Queen Anne, in charge of the country, and Bavaria joins the French alliance. He is fighting for France and Spain to allow France to keep control. In 1703, Savoy and Portugal, two different nations, joined the alliance with Britain. And then, just a year later, Bavaria is kicked out of the war. Go figure. In 1705, Joseph I becomes the emperor of the Austrian Empire. A year later, the alliance consisting of England, Austria, Germany, States, the Dutch, and Portugal take over what is known as the Spanish Netherlands and divide it up among themselves. In 1712, England decides they're done with this war and they leave. In 1713, the Treaty of Utrecht, which is really well known, is signed. It effectively ends the war. So, how did it end the war? The Treaty of Utrecht was actually a multitude of different treaties with France and Spain and all the other countries that they were fighting against, because each country declared war on these two countries, so they had to end each individual war. So what did the treaties do? Well, put Philippe V on the throne. He stayed completely. But France and Spain gave up a lot of territory and claims, as according to Britannica.com on their article of the Treaty of Utrecht. This diagram is from the Spanish succession timeline, and it was really helpful. So now you know about the War of Spanish Succession and what causes it had. I've told you about the causes of the war, some of the key players, countries, and events of the war, and the conclusion of the war. Thank you for your time.